Hey, I'm Russell Leeds and welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. This week I'm joined by Jeremy and Ginny.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for joining me. Two very successful property investors. The interesting thing is they've got a really cool story. But what's really interesting right now is they are managing a £4 million property portfolio in just 4 hours a day, which I think is pretty impressive for the size of the portfolio. So thanks guys for coming on the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us.
No problem at all. Do you want to give us a bit of a background as to what you were doing, say, before property, maybe like 6 years or so ago? Is that about the right time scale?
Well, that's when we met you.
Yeah, so that's when your life changed for the better.
That's when it was, yeah.
It was a significant change. I've always loved property, and I'll jump in here. Is that right?
Yeah, you go for it.
I've always loved property, but always done it without any science. It's like, that's the mortgage, that's the rent. Why wouldn't you do it? I remember asking my dad, who was a copper about 30 years ago, Dad, is this legal? I'm making this cash flow every month on single lets back in the day. And my dad, I don't know. What do you want another house for anyway? So 6 years ago, yeah, it changed massively because we suddenly got some science behind it. But before that, we were teachers. I had another life, and I'm going to let Ginny tell you about it. In another life.
That does feel like a very, very long lifetime ago. Yeah, we were both school teachers. We were both secondary school teachers. I didn't have any knowledge of property whatsoever. I didn't have any knowledge of business or investment. For me, I was very, very institutionalised. I was in teaching, and that's where I was going to be as forever, as far as I could see it. So when I met Jeremy and we started on the academy and started our property education, that's when the world completely opened up for me. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster ever since, and it's been awesome.
Amazing. That's really good to hear. So what was your sort of financial position then at this time, 6 years ago? Where were you kind of at?
Yeah, dark place. A dark place. We were 30,000 more or less, give or take, in debt. And, we were earning a good salary, but we were spending that plus some every month, and it was starting to go. And, I wouldn't just say it's literacy as far as property. It was financial literacy. And it was a real, people think deputy head teacher, they've got it sus, they've got it together. Look at them, they're earning good money for down here. We're based in Cornwall. And it was a very dark time. And I think for a long time I regretted that teaching process, that going through, because I won't say how long Ginny taught for, I taught for 20 years. And that's an awful long time. And I think a lot of the good memories had gone because of the financial place that I'd got into. And coming back, and I got a phone call from your brother saying, look, you've done well from what you've done with the deal source, and would you come back mentoring? And I'd never considered it at that point. I thought that chapter had kind of gone. But the mentoring now, working with people that are driven, people who know their why. When you walk through the door of a live event, you can just pick up on that energy. People want to change their lives. People are changing their lives. And all of a sudden, the live events are like the biggest parents' evening that you could ever see. So you've got 15 minutes from 9 in the morning till 10 at night. And I love every second of it. Absolutely love it, because the people sat there not only want to change their lives, they've invested money into their own education to change their lives. And, it's an awesome thing to be part of, I think.
Yeah,
and
totally.
you really do feel like you're shifting people's lives, I guess.
And do you find that inspiring, even coming back now and seeing, the atmosphere and do you think does that motivate you to want to do more or
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's every time is a real breath of fresh air. It's a real inspiration, and I've never ceased to be amazed by the stories of people who come and sit down in front of us, and there's people from all backgrounds, all cultures, all situations, and it's awesome to actually be part of their journey and to be able to help them work out what they want to do and how they want to achieve success.
Did you build much of your business through networking then? Do you think networking has been something that played a big part? What would you then give to anyone watching this thinking, yeah, I don't really like networking, I'm not very good at networking? What would you say were some top tips on how to be a great networker?
Right, I'm going to let Ginny answer this one.
You're going to let me answer this because you know that I am that person.
You're a better networker than Jeremy?
No, I don't know if I'm a better networker. I was certainly a far less enthusiastic networker.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. Can you not see this? Can you not see?
I had to
Jeremy-
pick her up and put her in the car. I had to
Do you know what though?
pick her up.
I don't know.
But
Go on.
no, for me, networking, just the word networking used to make me feel just physically, I don't know, just really reluctant, really nervous, really scared. Even though I was a teacher and I taught for 29 years and, literally networking.
You said it.
I said it every single day. To actually go to an event where you were expected to be able to express what you're doing, what your service is, what you're offering, it just used to throw me into a real kind of place of, I don't want to do that. That's
A bit
not
like
me.
public speaking. They say, don't they, that public, because it's kind of similar, isn't it? If you've got to give like a 20-second elevator pitch,
Yeah.
kind of similar to public speaking.
But exactly. But for me, the hint for me of anybody who is nervous about networking is just to know your pitch. To be really clear on what your pitch is, so that as soon as you're in that position, you're able to reel off your pitch, and then you're into the conversation, and then you just have a conversation like a normal human being. And that's literally...
That's where I'm going wrong. You got to do like a normal human
like
being.
a normal
Damn
human
it.
being,
Okay, right.
whatever that means. But it's overcoming that barrier of, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say. But actually, you do know what to say. You've just got to say it. And the more you practice it, the better it is. And I don't mind networking now.
I think so many people overthink it. Do you know, I'm sure, might have been you, might have been your brother, 90% of success is turning up. And with networking events, you turn up, you fluff your lines, do you know, you feel a bit foolish. What's the worst that's happened? Do you know, and all of a sudden you've met other people that will remember you.
There you go. Top tip. You heard it here first. Fluff your lines. Make a fool of yourself.
Yeah.
They will remember you.
But it's about
Strip off.
I was going to go down that route, but I drew a line there. That. But no, make yourself memorable. And some people do it through humour or whatever. But it's about consistency. So with the lettings business now, do you know, for us it was, okay, so we've run kind of hobby businesses in the past. I've always been fascinated with it. But to grow a business, you've got to get out there. And there's the social media side, there's the marketing side, but also people have got to associate that business with somebody. And it's been me for however long. And, do you know, it's been really interesting. Cornwall's quite isolated, right? It's on the end of the world. And, do you know, we invest there and we invest in Grimsby and Cleethorpes, which is the other end of the world.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the story for that. But, do you know, your reach as far as the academy, do you know, so we lived in Truro for a long time. And the next door neighbour came and knocked on the door. And about mid-20s, ex-military, and he came and knocked on the door and he said, and he looked really sheepish. And I thought he'd done something, or he'd banged the car, or he'd done something. And he said, Jeremy, I said, Nath, just spit it out, man. What's going on? He said, do you know a guy called Russell Leeds? And I said, yeah, you work with him. He said, oh, thank God for that. I just saw you on the telly, which was YouTube. Yeah. I just saw you on the telly, and I've been looking into his stuff. Now he joined the academy and finished 12th. So that's the next door neighbour. So your reach is going down to the Outer Hebrides on one end and down to Cornwall the other end. And it's like networking for us down in Cornwall. We're meeting more people that it may or may not be those people that we're interested in working with, but they may know people. So for us, the lettings game has been, you know, very interesting about, okay, maybe it's guaranteed rents we can offer because we're property investors in our own right. You know, people come to us and say, oh, well, it's, you know, being a landlord, being a property investor is over now, isn't it? It's end regulation, renters' rights bill. It's all gone, isn't it? And we can stand there and say, or sit there and say, no, I don't believe it is. That was a very different position to where we were 6 years ago. Don't forget what Samuel said, you're a deal sourcer. What's that? And at that point, it was like, I'll be honest, there's a bit of ego. I didn't even know what ego was at that, 46 years of age. And it was like, do you know who I am? Do you know? And I wanted to be at Buy, Refurbish, Refinance, the fourth C, if you like. And I was being told, no, you need to be a deal sourcer, which was right. And I know that now. But It's like, no, I'm a property investor. I'm coming to you to teach me to be a property investor. And you're telling me I've got to be a deal sourcer. And it was like, I self-sabotaged for about 8 or 9 weeks. Didn't follow the plan. I had a beautiful plan. We'd created it together, hadn't we?
Yep.
I think you drew flowers on it and all sorts, and we stuck it in a drawer. And I chased shiny objects for it. And I ended up in Burnley, Grimsby, Cleethorpes. Should we do that one now? Why would you travel 7 hours?
Go on then. Why would you? Let me ask you. You've teed me up for it nicely. Why would you travel 7 hours to buy a property, Jeremy?
We wanted to get as far away from home as possible, I think.
Do you know there was a bit of a midlife transition going on? I'm sure, but do you know I read Buy Low, Rent High.
They're cheaper, aren't they? They're a lot cheaper property. It's a long way to go for a viewing, though. Did you try it in like multiple viewings in one go, like big day of viewings?
Spent a lot of time away from home.
Yeah,
a lot of money's on Airbnb, and
you were away for a lot, weren't you? In terms of out of the month, you might have been away for 10 days at a time.
Which sounds really exciting, but then you remember that you're away in Grimsby,
Burnley.
I booked him some great Airbnbs to stay.
We sold deals in Hull. I loved it. I loved it, and there was something about I needed it to get over that ego bit, to go out and view hundreds of properties. I used to view so many properties and then not analyse a lot of deals, which is when people come to me now and go, I'm viewing a lot, but I'm not analysing. I said, yeah, I know, I can remember that. But don't worry, you're doing it. You can shift that around. Don't think that's a negative. And then Ginny was still working full time at that point. So she was queen of compliance. She was queen of deal analysis. We JV'd with somebody else.
Watched an awful lot of videos of you trawling around properties. Yeah.
Were you just filming it then? Filming it and sending it back? So it's like a double team. You go, view, here's the video, send it back. Ginny does the due diligence and works out what it was. Yeah. And over the time, though, over 6 years, you've now, how many properties do you say you're managing for personal properties that you either own or control?
We got 36 units.
36 units. That's a lot, isn't it? A lot to manage. If you added them all at the value, it's over £4 million portfolio, which sounds really cool as well. You're managing it in about 4 hours a day. What is the day-to-day life then of somebody who's got 36 properties that they're managing, earning a very good income, tens of thousands of pounds income from it, which is amazing. So well done. But
thank you.
What does that actually look like?
It can look like anything, really. I mean, we're in a position now where we're building a team. We do have somebody who works full time on operational and administration, which is a massive weight off my shoulders. I mean, being a letting agent it's not a glamorous job. It's a job that requires an awful lot of systemisation and ensuring that there's robust processes in place and that there's excellent customer service, because obviously if you're a tenant you want things resolved now. If you're a landlord you want to make sure that your property is looked after and you don't want any voids in there. So there's a lot of things that need to be done quickly. So a typical day could be anything. It could be dealing with maintenance issues, it could be dealing with tenants who are moving out of properties, tenants moving into properties, it could be organising viewings, organising maintenance.
Do you self-manage all your properties? You haven't got like an agent, so you do everything?
We do everything.
Are they HMOs? Are they serviced accommodation?
It's a real mix.
It's a mixture of all the stuff.
Yeah.
And we learned a lesson from.
What's the lesson then? Is that a good thing or a bad to have a mix? See, you've got a lot of people stick to one strategy, don't they? So it'll be like, I just do service accommodation in London or whatever, and everything's the same. Which from a systemisation point of view is easier because everything's the same. Your clean team are the same, but it's all patterned and uniformed. But from if the market dips in service accommodation, from a sort of protecting yourself, it's quite nice to have properties in different areas, different strategies. So what was the big lessons then from the way you've gone about it?
So you can reframe stuff, can't you? Absolutely. I've heard you say about focus, and people like Warren Buffett, people like Steve Jobs, they will all agree that their success has come from absolute laser focus. But like you say, when market shifts, you need to have, rather than all eggs in one basket, if you like, it's good to diversify in certain areas. From a management perspective, okay, it's tough. And it's like, okay, you can set up processes, but we've worked with a team in the Philippines. Well, they can't go out and actually inspect properties on the ground. So we've got a team in Cornwall and a team in Grimsby and Cleethorpes that come and help us with that. And I think the learning was, with any new business, you're going to go through that growth period of, it's carnage. It feels very out of control. And there's rents coming in and there's stuff that you haven't got in place and you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right, isn't it? And I think because there's been some sort of historical things in our portfolio and also properties from other landlords, and we're trying to get to a place where we are taking on perhaps more higher end single lets, maybe less HMOs, and trying to sort of refine where we go in the future. I think we've come from a place where there's been, I use the word chaos, to sort out really in that respect.
Well, the thing about HMOs as well is if you've got 36 properties, but if like half of them are HMOs, that's actually more like, well, that's like 18 of them are like 4, 5, 6 properties in one, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like suddenly, I managed a HMO portfolio in Wolverhampton. We had over 100 rooms. It wasn't 100 properties. It was probably about 20 properties.
But they are properties in their own right, aren't they? Because they
Yeah.
have their own tenancies and their own
tenant. That one person will come and... If anything, it's worse. I would say one HMO with 4 rooms is more difficult to manage than 4
single lets.
Yeah. Because you've got the communication between the tenants, and I think also the better quality the HMO, the easier it is to manage. So if you've got en suites, if you've got kitchenettes, if you've got nice bigger rooms, better paying tenants, it's easier. A lot of the ones I had in Wolverhampton at the time were like no en suites, so it's communal bathrooms. Then you get the calls like, oh, so and so has left a poo in the toilet. And you're like, why are you ringing me?
It's
Do
the
you know what I
pictures
mean?
that get me,
If you went through your WhatsApp messages, you'd be like, what?
Thanks for that.
You've got to turn off the feature. Have you ever? Do you know the WhatsApp feature where it automatically saves it to your photo album? So you're scanning through your photos and you're like, what the? Oh yeah, that's from WhatsApp. That is. I didn't take a picture of that, honest. That's not me. It's one of my tenants.
Right, I'm going to pull this back now. So the learning for us was deal selling. We chase shiny objects, probably because of my ego to start with, and it was all over the shop. And then we found a co-sourcer. This was pre-Deal Connect, obviously, which is a very new feature, which I just think is awesome, by the way. Deal Connect will just revenue. It's got massive implications, I think, and it's going to grow massive. But we found a co-sourcer because at that time it was like, okay, I've got
We've
deals.
got these deals. How do we sell them? Where do we go? Yeah.
And those deals were rent to rents. These deals were. So I love property. I love viewing properties, and I had an analysis queen that would help me to recognise what was and what wasn't.
And go networking for you.
Well, yeah, I think you picked that up really. And yeah, I don't think you networked for about 4 years, did you?
That was a later thing. Anyway, don't let me distract you. Carry on.
So the bottom line is, once we found that co-sourcer, okay, so are you open to working together? Yeah, okay. And we went through a few, because a few went, no, I don't want to work with you, and take that personally. But actually...
Did they give a reason?
You just don't like
We're open to co-sourcing. Yeah. Oh, Jeremy. Oh.
So that's how at the time, because your mindset improves as you go on. You get more resilient, right? And the more comfortable you get. But we had recommendations of people that potentially might work with us as co-sourcers. And, we asked half of them and half said no. And, I thought, what's wrong with us? But actually, they might not be in a position that they wanted to scale their business. Or they
had too many deals already or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So when I got over myself, again, ego again, just looking back, and we kind of shortlisted 2 or 3. And we said, look, we don't want to meet your investors. We don't need to have any sort of contact with them. We're just really good at finding deals. I can travel anywhere in the country in my Skoda, as I remember rightly. And, we're longer in the tooth. We can package this up. We're a compliant company. We'll work with you. Are you open to scaling your business together? And I closed them. And 2 said no. But 2 said yes. And, we started to work with them. And that learning was, okay, we found out what their investors were looking for, and we went out and found them. And it happened to be, at the time, HMOs in the north of England that you could purchase for around 70 or 80,000, cash flow of maybe 12 to 1,500 pounds a month, 4 or 5 bedrooms, either set up now, or we went on to buy refurbished, refinance, commercial valuations. And when interest rates were low, there was also people looking for single lets. Remember back in the day?
I do.
Back in the day.
I do. Back in the day when single lets were profitable.
But it's bizarre. 2007, 2008, interest rates were still at 5 or 6%. And it's like, well, what were we doing back then?
Yeah.
With no science.
Exactly. So talking more about your managing then, you've sort of touched on a couple of things that you're doing to sort of systemise it. So you mentioned you've got a team in Grimsby.
Yep.
You've got a team in Cornwall.
Yeah.
You've got a team in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So what do they do? Like how many people are in your team, and what does that look like?
So this focus lesson has really stuck with us, and we've tried to keep it to a real focused area. So in Cornwall, it's mid Cornwall, and Cornwall isn't a massive place. There's only 500,000 people in the whole county, but it's a very long county. So actually, geographically, we want to make sure that people are. So we've got a team with like housekeepers, which are really good cleaners that we pay a little bit extra, and they take a bit more responsibility on, and they can do.
They can do the viewings, they can do check-ins, check-outs, and generally be around. We've got groundskeeping team, so that's very, very sort of operational. We've also got financial people in Cornwall as well. One of our bookkeepers is based in Cornwall who works with us on our more sort of local portfolio.
Well, we looked at the portfolio and said, right, what are the 4 key areas that we really want to focus on? Because this came from, okay, so we deal sourced and then we paid off our debts, which was a great position. Then I got into buy refurbished refinance a little bit too quickly because that's where I really wanted to get. And
are you doing that now?
So this is our focus at the moment.
Lettings.
Yeah, and I've had to say no to things which I wasn't very good at. So at the moment, it is. The last buy refurbished refinance was an SA in Cleethorpes, which was a smaller project, and I love that because that's quite a niche market, contractor accommodation. But for us, it was that focus on let's split. We've got this portfolio. HMO, single lets, serviced accommodation. What's all of them, the properties that we own or we control? So all of them has documentation that's got to be stayed on top of. And we looked at that as a key area. Then there was a second area, which is the letting and management of it, the day-to-day. And it's different for each one, right? SAs and HMOs, certainly. And then the third one was the financial element of it. And then the fourth one was, over time you have a start-off strategy, which is a buy, refurbish, refinance. What if you've left money in a deal? You've got investors, making sure that those investors are formed and kept in touch. There's some which we've got equity shares within, so make sure that is cash flowing and everybody knows, and with clear communication going forwards. So they're the 4 main areas that we really focus on now. And the team has developed. And I love Ginny, but I love.
Thanks.
No, you're welcome. But she's taken on that financial element to it, which has been it's the detail which, for me, give me a networking event every day of the week. Give me a spreadsheet, I'll do it, but I'd prefer to stick needles in my eyes. Something along those lines.
I think that's fair, isn't it? How we sort of divided our sort of skill set in what we do. And I think strategy is a big thing for us now with our portfolio. We've got this portfolio which we've built over 6 years, plus a bit longer for some of the more historical stuff. And I don't know, it probably sounds really obvious to you, but for us it was a realisation that we've got this portfolio which we've built, we've started. They've all got different strategies going. They've all got money coming in and things like that. But then it's almost, we need to come back and have a look at this because that's not performing as well now, or something's changed with this one. And for us, it's about consolidating, auditing, and making sure that we're really maximising
each property,
each one.
Yeah.
Before
That makes
we
sense.
move on. So our financial team that we work with, based in the Philippines, are really helping us look in detail at each of the different elements of our
So you look,
portfolio.
yeah, that makes sense. So the Philippine people are mainly the finance people, are they? Bookkeepers.
Finance and operational as well. We've got a brilliant admin
Lettings administrator,
who works in the Philippines, who does a lot of the tenant management, if you like, communications, day-to-day admin of
and social media as well now, which
They do that as well, Philippines?
They support us, yeah.
Nice.
All
How
right,
do you go about recruiting people? Because obviously, if you recruit people in England, you'd do an interview, you'd meet them in person, you'd maybe have an office that they came to. I know everyone's working from home nowadays, so it's a bit different, which does make hiring people for the Philippines and stuff easier because it kind of fits in more.
It's really interesting, Russell, because a lot of people have had good or bad experiences, and if you listen to anybody, you can pick up good and bad. There's noise around. Whereas we'd met some few people that said, you've got to start building a business over there because one, it's very affordable. Two, you find the right people. They are brilliant at what they do. And actually with the cloud and everything now with tech, you don't need to have people here. And, Ginny's put together, I'll say a robust process. Because when I first saw it, I was thinking, bloody hell, this interview process.
And it's about having a process in place where you can set up a really comprehensive screening process, basically, and sifting through all the applications and all the inquiries to work out what it actually is that you want them to do. So having a very, very clear job spec, and then a round of interviews, a round of task-based assessments, a round of where we do a values-based interview as well, don't we? Where we actually talk about the values of our business and how they align with that. So
it's a proper employee. It's not like Fiverr or... No, you're actually employing them.
You have a contract with them where you work with, Philippine. They have a 13-month bonus scheme, for example, where they get paid an extra month's pay at Christmas time or in December. That's something that is expected.
They love Christmas.
They do.
Oh my word!
They have
Filipinos
holiday,
love
and
Christmas.
the cultural and the learning about the different ways that they work has been really, really awesome for us. So.
And what's the hourly rate of a typical? So if you're hiring a VA type person in the Philippines,
depends on their skill set, really. I mean, for us, we work
and
with,
experience.
And experience. So it could be anywhere between sort of £4 and £8 an hour based on their sort of skill level, and more, and maybe less. If you're looking at either of those scales.
So it's probably for the equivalent then, say £4 an hour. Would that be the equivalent of say I don't know what minimum wage is now. It's about 13 quid now. So would the £4 an hour be the equivalent of about someone on £13 an hour over here?
Yeah, I think so. It's a good question, actually. I've not done that conversion, but I reckon that's probably about right.
See, I disagree. I think the experience of the persons that we've got in this team, and I don't know so much the financial team, but certainly a letting administrator went through this very robust interview process, and she'd had 5 or 6 years experience in working in London somewhere on somebody else's portfolio beforehand, and was very familiar with regulations, was very familiar
software,
and registering deposits, and stuff that was going on, and very open to work and change and stay up to speed as well. I would suggest, I know the lettings industry over here is, it's quite a tough, quite low paid, I would imagine.
It is low paid.
Yeah.
It is low paid. For if you're an estate agent or a letting agent, they're not on a lot of money. Because I wanted to be, when I was a kid, I thought, I'd love to be an estate agent. I love property, I love going around, viewing them, selling them. And I looked at the salary and it was like 22 grand or something. I was like, oh, nah, forget that.
Well, even though lettings and management is one of the 4 key areas of managing the portfolio, we'd gone through, because we work with different business partners in Cleethorpes, for example, and we were looking to expand, and we helped build an HMO management company up there, which ended up being sold. And at that point, Ginny had come out of teaching, and it was, okay, which direction are we going to go? And for some family reasons, we wanted to spend more time in Cornwall after I'd had my 5 years.
You want to spend more time in Cornwall than Grimsby?
Family reasons.
The fish.
You don't need to give a reason. There's no justification. Grimsby literally has the word grim in the title.
But there's a Hollywood film made there, isn't there?
Is it? I don't know, is there?
100%, yeah.
What about?
It's called Grimsby.
Is it? I've never heard of it.
I tell you what,
Is it good?
I'll send you a link.
What's it about?
It's wonderful. I'm trying to think. So Sacha Baron Cohen stars in this.
So it's a piss take.
There's
It must
there's
be,
a comedy,
if Sacha Baron
there's a
Cohen's in
comedy
it.
element to it, if that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for us, the letting side. So we had a couple of bad experience with HMO managers, with letting agents, and we wanted to take this.
It's like cleaners, isn't it? You get so many bad ones.
Yep.
You have to go through until you can get.
Yep.
And when you do, a good one is worth their weight in gold.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. I was listening to Samuel say recently. So he hires slowly, and he fires slowly as well. Gives people a chance. I think with our experience with the Philippines, it's staying on top of people, and that whole thing of that operational level, the management level, and the directors level. Our goal this year is to get Ginny out of the management role of the lettings and work on a director's role. So we've got to take on enough properties outside of our portfolio to justify paying that manager. And like you're saying, we're looking now in the area, and it's not a huge amount of money to get good people, even at a management level.
Yeah.
But that's the focus. But the main driver from it was we'd had bad experiences with letting agents. And
Letting agents don't have a good rep anyway, do they? I don't think.
I remember when I ran a HMO management company, and it is a tough.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough job. I think you've got the landlords are on your back. The tenants are on your back. You feel like you're one step up from a traffic warden in terms of popularity.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it isn't an easy gig.
No.
Because landlords expect the property to be fully occupied, no problems, you to sort it, and if anything less than that, they're unhappy.
Yep.
because you're taking 10% or 12% or...
But even things like, do you charge a fee for the finding a new tenant?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even things like that, the tenant moves out, right? Nothing you can do about that. They've chosen to move out. And they're like, oh, you must have put someone in there that was on a short stay just so you could get paid your extra 250 quid.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, that's what I did. Because I love going around finding new tenants. Yeah.
But the marketing side of actually finding new landlords is really interesting, because there's a lot in the press now about the Renters' Rights Bill and, oh my God, it's going to be the end of this, that and the other. But actually, I think a lot of, in our experience of meeting landlords, and it started with friends and family, to be honest with you, and then friends of friends, and then networking started to expand that net. And it was like, okay, so a lot of landlords are doing self-managing because they are fearful of paying 10% of their gross rent, but they've got no processes in place. Do you know, they're very resentful because they're spending time trying to deal with things that take 2 or 3 times as long as it would take a letting agent to do. And they're resentful because they want that whole point. They were buying this as an asset, and they were buying this to create passive income.
And make expensive mistakes as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And do you know, councils are getting more powerful, and do you know, there is more regulation, which, same with HMOs, when, do you know, regulation started to come in about that, a lot of landlords left the market, because it's now regulated. To me, there's a lot of common sense which is coming into the regulation.
Yeah.
And actually, what do you teach us? If people are fearful, be greedy. And there's a lot of fear in the market at the moment. I heard a statistic, something like 47% of landlords are either out or intending to leave. Yeah.
They're very scared. But because, to be fair to them, if you're not educated, you don't know what you're doing, buy-to-let strategy right now isn't great, is it?
No.
Interest rates are really high, and they don't. I know that base rate seems to be going down, but I was chatting to my broker the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, the press are kind of saying it, but we're actually seeing mortgages still going up right now." So that doesn't seem to be fixing itself anytime soon. No. So realistically, unless you're going to be using service accommodation, using HMO, social housing, it's very difficult right now to make a profit, isn't it?
Yeah. But then there's unencumbered properties. There's properties that have stayed in families where, because that's the other thing is, do you know, things like rent reviews. Do you know how many landlords review their rents regularly? They're just like, okay, I've got a good tenant, so I'm going to look after it. 10 years has gone past and they're still paying £450 and the market rent's 1,200 quid. And it's like, oh no, well, put it up. Well, I'm not going to put it up 800 quid in... And it's things like that where, do you know, I think landlords miss out on the fact that, okay, there is a lot of regulation, there is a lot of red tape. But if you stay on top of that, you'll find great tenants for great properties, for great landlords. And that's one of the catch lines for us, which is, okay, we'd like to try and make renting better than owning. We actually rent in Cornwall. So we are tenants as well as landlords. So we rent a nice property in 2 miles from the beach, in the middle of the sticks. I love it. I've fallen back in love with Cornwall, so I'm over this north of England.
You're over Grimsby?
Yeah, as long as I can have haddock and chips every quarter, something like that.
How often do you go to Grimsby?
About once a quarter.
Do you go and stay in your properties?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think it's really important to see what's going on. So the SA properties we've got there is contractor accommodation. And I think people think, they've got these hairy backside, northern or Welsh or Irish or Cornish people. Okay, you've heard it here now. but they pay good money, and they want some basics, which generally is, and I'm stereotyping now, they want a TV that they can plug their PlayStation in, and they can sit there. They want an American style, fast Wi-Fi, an American style fridge that they can put the beers in. Some nice recycling bins because they get their takeaway, and they work for 12, 14 hours. They come back and have a beer, have a curry, and they will pay for the basic. Needs to be warm as well.
Yeah.
And cleaned regularly.
They don't ask for much, do they?
Yeah, and it's not rocket science, but if you're investing in property, which is 80,000 or 90,000, and then you come down to Cornwall, and everyone thinks in Cornwall that it's all about Rick Stein and it's all about multi-million-pound houses, and you can find that, but there's lots of areas there's a lot of deprivation in Cornwall, and there's good and bad wherever you go. Just picking up on the Grimsby thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But in Cornwall, because where we used to work, in 2 different areas, there's real deprivation, and kids come into school with very little, probably not having breakfast in the mornings, and there's free school meals and all the rest of it. And I think a lot of people just see Cornwall as, okay, it's just the high-end holiday. So we were looking at that place in Hale last week, and Hale is a really nice touristy area for serviced accommodation, and this lead came because we'd sorted out a guaranteed rent for somebody in Truro, and this is a friend, military. They travel away, they work away, and with Hale it was like, okay, in the summer it's going to be 99% occupied, and it will be really good nightly rates, and we'll make shed loads of money in 3 months. So what are you going to do with the rest of the time? And it's really starting to look around and know in that area. And because of our lessons that we've learned in Grimsby and Cleethorpes, and because we had contractor accommodation, which was working really well, and we were mentors at the time, and thinking, we've got this SA gig wrapped up. And then all the contractors left, not just in our place, in the whole area. And there was a shutdown in Hinkley Point, I think. So they trundled off down there. And it was like, okay, so we've just relied on that this money was going to carry on. And then we started looking at the hospitals. Then we started looking at the local councils who were bringing, overseas trainee social workers.
Care industry.
And you were just reaching out directly. And
absolutely.
I suppose that's quite an important lesson, isn't it? If you do have a property that you're managing, you can't just rest on your laurels. You always have to be ready to adapt, roll your sleeves up.
Yeah,
even though property can be passive, and it is passive, you shouldn't just leave it to it. You need to be.
That was another big lesson.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where we are, isn't it now?
Yeah.
Our year of focus 2025.
Is that the year this year? Year of focus.
Strategy.
Decisions. Yeah. And, I think looking back, we've learned not to regret things. If we had our time again, we'd probably do things differently. But also we created a lot of chaos in those I created a lot of chaos in those early years.
Did you just kick him under the table? We created a lot of chaos. I created a lot of chaos.
I thought it was you.
Don't bring me into this chaos luck.
So this year is, okay, so it's like property is a cookie cutter, it's a sausage machine, I like to call it, cookie cutter approach, where if you can systemize it and you can get people or put process, so we call process a list of tasks, and systems is, that technology that we use to support that. And with that, you can work with people from all over the world, and we know that now. And it's like getting to a level of, okay, how are we now? 53 now. And it's like, okay, people say, why don't you want to slow down? And I enjoy our lives. I enjoy coming up for this. So we've got a 4-day event now, and it is carnage, and it is tiring. And it's people say, do you know, you haven't been to the toilet. You haven't had any food. You haven't, you know. But we choose to do that because we get a real buzz from it.
What, from holding your weight? I've been to the toilet, but it feels so good.
Got a European record. But it's the where we are right now. That's the choices that we're making, and we love the choices. And you know, we can choose to do other things, and it's having that flexibility, which a lot of people start in their journey. Do you know, going, I'd love choices.
Yeah, exactly. They can't see that necessarily. And I think we were talking in the car coming up, weren't we? And we feel really in a great place in terms of where we are with our business and our property business and where we've got and our lettings and our portfolio. And we're really excited about our year of focus and, you know, all of those
decisions
and all of those things. And we're really enjoying the lifestyle now that this 6 years of chaos and reorganising and financial roller coaster where we've actually got. And I feel that we're in a really good place to sort of enjoy going forwards now, working on ourselves as much as on the business that we have and
good.
And how we want.
And it's systemised enough for us to get away on a regular basis. Do you know, not every month, but we'll probably go away once every quarter.
To Grimsby.
Yes, to Grimsby. Yes. Cleethorpes is the seaside of Grimsby.
Right. I don't know the area very well, to be fair.
You must come up. I'd love to buy you haddock and chips.
Do you know, I should. You have to show me around your properties and show me, and I'll get there. I'll be like, I was wrong. Grimsby is amazing. What was I talking about?
I'm going to send you the film first of all. I'll send you a link.
Send me the film. Maybe invite me to Cornwall first. That sounds a bit more.
Come to Cornwall.
You're more than welcome to come down to Cornwall.
Sounds a bit more, amazing. No, that's really good. It's good to see how like you say, I like the cookie cutter analogy where you've systemised it, you've brought in extra staff, people in the Philippines and over here, and now it's just focus, scaling it, doing the same stuff. And you're right, you've got to enjoy it. It's always going to be work. I always worries me a little bit when I'm talking to people who, if they're a student or on the academy, and they're like, I just want to be financially free and go and lay on the beach. It's like, you probably won't manage it though, because you need to love what you do, and you need to. If you don't love property and love finding deals and making money, you don't love that part of the process.
Well, Ginny and I are very different on that, because I've always loved property. I've always known deep down that that's where I'll be, you know, in some shape or form. And it's almost a bizarreness. It's the tangible. It's the fact that you can go and look at and drive past your ass and go, that's mine.
I like that as well.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm the exact same. Some people like it about like vehicle. I mean, I do quite like cars, but people like trains or whatever. I'm like, don't really get that. But houses, I just like looking at houses.
Yeah.
We went for a walk around, went to this little island nearby. It's only on the Thames, but it's a little island on the Thames. They've got like a pub on there and stuff like this. And there'd been a new housing estate. There'd been an old mill. They converted it into flats. And we were just like walking around the housing estate, looking at the houses. Just, that's really interesting. You know, how they built this and developed this. I just like it. I just find it exciting and interesting.
See, my lad's doing, this is probably off topic, but my lad's doing an art degree, fine arts degree. And, you know, I wanted to try and share some stuff with him. And because a lot of the modern stuff I really struggle with. So I went to the Tate Modern. Wow, what a building. What a building. And it was like, okay, there was these multi-million-pound bits of art, and I just couldn't stop looking around. And for me, that's property, and I've always loved that. Whereas Ginny, it's more of a vehicle, isn't it?
I think it probably has been in the part to start with, yeah, absolutely.
I put you on the spot now.
Yeah, you have, yeah. And, of course, no, I do like property, but I haven't had that same passion as you've had since you were 8 or however old you were. No, it hasn't been like that for me. It's been more of a slow burner. I love the business side of it. I love the fact that it's something completely different to where I was before. I was a secondary school teacher, and that was it. You know, it's a whole new world, and just the fact that it opens literally so many doors for me is a really, really
and a big one for
part.
you, I think, was showing your kids you know, we've got grown-up kids now. My girls are 25 and my lad's 23, and yours are similar age.
23 and 20, yeah. So for me, it was very much about showing them that there is a different way. And even though at the moment they're choosing their sort of corporate lives and the traditional route, I think there will be a point where they look at things differently.
And they can do both. They can do both. You can still do the corporate ladder and invest in property. Also, you can have that same passion that we're talking about with property. I've also got it about businesses. So I could almost run any business and I'd find it interesting.
Yeah.
Because I just find business interesting as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. But did you, when you were a kid, if you like, because me and Samuel, we used to like design our own houses and stuff when we were kids. You used to do that, draw in like floor plans and stuff.
I'm sure I did. My grandfather, you know, he made money in property in the 70s, and you know, it went to the next generation and just disappeared. The wealth disappeared. But you could buy a house back then. I've got a for sale sign back in the garage, 350 quid for a house. Yeah. That's a 3-bedroom house in Cornwall. It's just, you know, tell me where. And that same house now is worth 350. £400,000.
Yeah, it's why I love interest-free mortgages. Imagine if you had an interest-free mortgage on that and just kept remortgaging it. You'd have a mortgage now for like 150 quid.
Yeah. Well, I said that to my dad. The other day. How much did you spend on the first place? Oh, 9,000. I said, yeah, how much is it worth now? Oh, nearly $500,000. I said, I had the same conversation with it. And it's like, I think there was a dawning. There was okay, yeah, but it was really tight to pay for that mortgage back then. Yeah, but not now.
No. If you had that on, literally, if you had it on an interest-only mortgage,
yeah,
it just shows because the mortgage is shrinking, same as your money in the bank, isn't it?
Yeah.
People are desperate trying to pay off the mortgages. It's like, no, just wait 30 years. Then by the time, if you just remortgage it again, if you want to, if you hasn't paid off, but that debt will have massively shrunk over that time.
Yeah.
But guys, really appreciate you coming on. Really love what you're doing. Love the way you've systemised the business, and I'm very interested actually in the stuff you're doing with the Philippines. We don't do any of that. All our staff are UK based. It's very, very, very interesting how you manage them and stuff. So thank you for sharing that. Guys, hope you found that useful. These are people that are really killing it in property right now. So there's surely some pearls of wisdom that you'll have picked up from this show. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Russell Leeds. This is Jeremy and Ginny, and we'll see you next week.